How is it going, YouTube? Scott the Mass Nerder here, and a while ago I made a specializations video for Battlefield 3 just covering the basic specializations, just saying what you could find anywhere online, you know, the basics of them. And I said I wanted to test them out once we get private matches and really compare them side by side and see how they work. Well, we don't have private matches, and I really don't see them coming anytime in the near future. So I decided I'm going to make my own private match. How I did that is, I'm on the console in case you wanted to know. I went into the server browser with a full squad. I also had 8 people in my party. Found an empty squad rush map. I jumped in and I invited the remaining 4 people into the game so they'd be on the other team. So we had 8 of us in one party in a game with no possible spaces for other people to join in. So it was all ours and we could do whatever we wanted. So we decided to test out. And what we wanted to test out, we wanted to test sprint, flak, and cover and suppression. So one thing we did, we just made sure at the beginning we're all running medic, and that's so we can pick each other up, and then we sort of slowly, not all of us were running medic, well, assault. But anyway, we wanted to have the ability to revive them so we stay alive and we don't lose those 20 tickets too fast. The problem here is if we wanted to test anything with vehicles, we really wouldn't have the option to do that in this game mode. But if you can get more friends on, like 16, you could take over a full rush map, you could take over a full conquest map or whatever, and you'd be good to go. Let's jump into comparing sprint. So what we did here, we took 2 people, one using sprint, one not using sprint, and we just had them sprint down on the map. And we saw how fast they went. So my good friend Nick is on the right side, and he is not using sprint. And my new friend who I met on YouTube, Legacy, is on the left, and he is using sprint perk. Now, they're both using the assault class. They both have the same gun and the same equipment. So we made everything constant, so hopefully if anything affects like that, it's all constant here. So let's start the race. I'm going to pause it here real quick, because now what I want to do is just compare them after a good, I don't know, maybe about 50 meters or so, and we'll compare how far apart they are at this time. And this 50 meters or so is probably farther than you would ever use when you're just trying to jump behind cover or something when you're getting shot at, or just trying to sprint around the corner to save yourself from in the middle of a gunfight. And we can see here, it's a very minimal distance. I mean, maybe 2 steps tops, which is probably about 5 feet in game. Maybe you can compare those better than me and you can tell me what you think. But you can see it's not that much. So let's jump back into the race. And let's stop it here again, which is sort of near the end of this race. And this is probably about, I don't know, maybe 150 or a little bit more feet total for this sprint. And we're going to compare the spread between them again. We can see here it is a little bit more substantial. Maybe a 4 or 5 steps difference between them, which is probably about 10 or 12 feet in game. And we know that a sprint specialization gives us a faster sprint, also unlimited sprint, but it's the faster sprint is what we're concerned about. But it seems that it's really only slightly faster. So what this means, if you're going for a very long distance, like 500 feet or more, you know, it's really going to add up. But if you're only going for a very short distance, because it's only slightly faster, it doesn't really add up to being much above where you were. But it's exponential in a way. I don't know if that makes sense, but if you're running at 1.1 speed of someone without sprint, you know, after distance that 0.1 keeps adding up and you're farther ahead. So we can know that this spec would come in really handy on those really large maps, especially in Conquest or something where you need to run back and forth between objectives or between the flags. But it's probably not as handy in a game like our game mode like Squad Rush, Team Deathmatch, or Squad Deathmatch. It is still a solid spec, and this one comes in use every time you sprint. It's always helping you a little bit, so you can keep that in mind. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go over and we're going to take a look at the flak. To test this, I lined up in the same place multiple times, and I had someone shoot RPGs and grenades from an underbarrel grenade launcher right over my top shoulder repeatedly. We just tested how much damage it did. You know, this game's good because it shows us the percentage of health I have, and it's really easy to compare that way. And the shot is going to be, if you look, it's going to be over on the S, right on this container, and I'm standing crouched right under the eye. The backdrop for me is a container, so there's no rubble or anything to affect me there, because I really just wanted to see how does it help us on explosive damage. So we're going to start with me not wearing flak. And my friend Sir Blank is going to be launching the underbarrel grenades at me first. The first shot he takes off 45% of my health. And the second takes off another 45% of my health. Okay, so we can assume it probably takes, without flak, a noob tube right near you is going to take you down 45% health, right? Well, let's continue. When I put on flak, and then we test the noob tube again, we see it takes off 45% of my health. And the second shot takes off 45% of my health again. And this was really surprising, so surprising in fact, that we're going to come back and test it again after we do the RPGs. But because someone had the RPG there, we just switched that test. So let's check that out. The RPG is going to stand in the same spot, and this is Legacy. You saw him in the sprint. He's going to stand in the same spot that the noob tube did. I'm in the same spot, and he's going to shoot at the same spot. We see, with me wearing Flak, because I'm still wearing it, it takes off 42% of my health. Now when I take off Flak, and I come back in, it does 48% damage, or it takes off 48% of my health. So here, we see a difference, which is good. And we can see it does about 6% health difference there. Now, everyone's getting pretty antsy in the game, so we only did one shot for the RPGs. We assumed it'll stay constant, since it did stay constant when we were doing the noob tubes. Anyway, we bring back the guy with the noob tube one more time. And again, I'm still not wearing Flak. So, he takes a shot at me, and it takes away 50% of my health. Twice. Good, we tested it twice again here. Now, the issue here is, how do we interpret this really? One time with me not wearing Flak, the noob tubes did 45% damage. One time with me not wearing Flak, it did 50% damage. And when I was wearing Flak, it did 45% damage. So we can't really be sure how this works. I wish I could interpret it better. Maybe you can. I think we can safely assume that Flak gives you about 5% more health, or less damage. Which isn't very big, but you know, sometimes it could be the difference between life and death. Now I want to add, we did try testing suppression and cover. The issue here is even with 3 enemies firing shots all around me, we couldn't cause the screen to blur. We couldn't cause that suppression effect. That was without me even using cover. So I don't know what to do there, guys. From what we've seen here, I'd say it's going to be a minimal change though. We can see the other things really don't affect you that much. But in a game, every little advantage does help. Hopefully this gives you a little bit more information to help you pick which specs you like more, and I promise if we can figure out any way to replicate the suppression effect from in-game, we'll be on there and we'll test cover and suppression both and compare them side by side and show you how they work. If anyone has any ideas, please let me know. Take it easy, everyone.